Welcome to another episode of Making Pittsburgh Healthy. This is about not only changing your world, your community, Pittsburgh. We want to make Pittsburgh the healthiest city in the U.S. and the world, but we want this to carry over, of course, to every city, every part of this planet. And today we have Mark Hernandez, owner and founder of People and Pets Energetics. We're talking about energy, emotions, health, and healing. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. He is a holistic practitioner that helps people, animals, and spaces. We're going to dive into that. You're probably wondering, what does that mean by spaces? It should intrigue you, that have hit the wall with their health and well-being issues. And there are so many people, Mark, that have hit the wall. They come to us as chiropractors sometimes as a last resort. They've hit the wall. Some have hit the wall 20 times, and they finally find another approach. So we're excited to have you on the line today. Welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about yourself. What you like to do, what you like to do for fun, and what gets you up in the morning.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Aaron, for the invitation to be on your podcast and be with your community. So, your question was, what do I like to do for fun? Yeah. So, I especially like international food and travel. Throughout my life, I've had the good fortune of being able to travel to Latin America, to spend a lot of time in Mexico City. And I also lived and worked in Asia for 2 years in Taipei. So during my time in Asia, I got to go to Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So those were life-changing experiences. So being in the international space is something, and traveling and just exploring cities. I'm currently in Chicago. I love to walk around the city, discover things, and that's one of the main things I like to do for fun. So what gets me up in the morning? I guess I love what I do as a holistic practitioner. I know it helps me a lot with my own health and well-being, and I see how it helps the different clients I serve, be they people, animals, or living spaces. I guess I'm always just in amazement of what's possible, often in a short time. I've seen people have foot pain, mysterious foot pain for 20 years, go from an 8 to a 2 in 20 minutes. Again, as I'll talk during our conversation, I'm always very clear. That comes from God, source, creator. The changes I help facilitate. So that's something that gets me up in the morning every day.
I love it. And it's funny, every time I ask that question, it always goes back to our profession. That's why we're doing this. And that's why you're spending time on a podcast. We take this time because we want to share. I love Chicago. I have family in Chicago. I love going to Chicago.
Yeah,
the first time I had the deep dish pizza, I thought, I'll eat a whole pie. You can eat one piece and you're stuffed. Awesome. So let's dive into this. Tell us, you deal with people, animals, and spaces, emotions, and energy. Tell us a background. How did you even get to this point, and what is it exactly that you're doing?
Yeah. So how I got to doing what I'm doing today. Well, started out my first professional background, a PhD in Hispanic Studies, taught at the college level for 20 plus years, Spanish, Latin American, US Latino studies, literature, art, culture, the whole shebang. Wrote a book and all that. And what I noticed during my time in academia was I kept on running these patterns. I kept on hitting the wall, and certain things kept on popping up that made no logical sense. So back in 2007, I picked up the phone, called my brother. He's a doctor of integrative medicine in Texas. So he's a medical doc, but does much more. So I told him what was going on in my professional life. I said, I've done all the left brain things to quote unquote solve it. And I go, okay, something else is going on. So he suggested I work with an energy healer. Again, this is back in 2007. So I worked, at the time I was living and working in Boston. The energy healer was out in New Mexico. We worked over the phone, 2 1-hour sessions over 2 months. And as I like to say, when nothing had changed, that proverbial frozen needle on the dial started to move a little bit. That got my attention. Well, I was a little stubborn, said, I can turn this around, and waited a couple more years, and the pattern persisted. So I said, okay, I want to learn that energy thing, because we all come into this lifetime with baseline ability to do the types of things I do. And I realized that at this later stage of my life, that I was coming down to the earth. I was given extra helpings that were meant to come online at this stage of my life. So I called my brother back. he recommended people to start training, certifications. So that's how I got doing what I'm doing with people.
So when you were having your challenges, I mean, and we're going to hear maybe not from so much our listeners, maybe some, they're going to be skeptical. They're going to get energy healer. This sounds bizarre. It sounds weird. Now, we know there's energy, and I can tell some of my stories. And even when I lay my hands on patients, it's,
Mhm.
you can feel it. It's just, you can sense it when there's positive, negative energy, when you're connecting with somebody. So what do you mean by that? You went to an energy healer and you started to see these changes. So I think our listeners can understand, okay, this is a real thing. Then how are you relating this to your clients and your patients?
Yeah. So my work, when I'm talking about energy healing, energy medicine, this all comes from principles of applied quantum physics. In the world of applied quantum physics, everything is energy. Okay, as Einstein said many years ago, energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It
Right.
just changes forms. Everything is connected. So what I do, what energy medicine, the term energy medicine refers to a series of systems, practices, tools that look at the subtle energy fields and identifies areas where there are blockages that are disrupting the flow, harmony, peace, and then shift those patterns, okay? In the world of chiropractic, uh, which is a form of body work, they're making the adjustments with the energy fields through the spine primarily, okay? Acupuncture through the placement of needles and their expert knowledge of where to get the energy back into flow. In the type I'm working with, I have intuitive gifts and abilities to see the invisible energy fields. And through my connection with God, Source Creator, the archangels on my light team, they show me where the blockages are, what they are, and clear them through my intention. I have the person's permission. With that, I can see the field and identify and release and just go 1, 2, 3, and it's gone. As I'm doing that release, sometimes the client feels it, other times they don't, and I know it's gone. So that's kind of when I'm talking about energy medicine, that's what I'm talking about.
Do a lot of people, when they come to you, are they open-minded? Are they skeptical? And does that play a role? And then I would like to kind of lead this into the emotional health. But I've seen it clinically that when patients are very negative and they tell me, Dr. Tresser, I know you can't help me. Well, I heard that in my first couple of years of practice. Somebody told me that a few times, and I stopped them. I said, listen, you're right. I will never help you if you keep saying that. Either come in with a new attitude or don't come back. Well, they chose not to come back, and I was fine either way because I'm not going to break that. But when they're negative, that affects that. When they're skeptical, it's okay as long as they have a crack in their heart, in their mind that I want help. Please help me. How does that play out? Because I'm sure I would expect them to come in on a last notion, like, oh, I'm going to try this guy, but is this for real?
Yeah, so great question. I completely agree with what you said. If the people that tend to gravitate towards me, they're already in the holistic space. So they're seeing a chiro, acupuncturist, naturopathic doctor. And I always say, and whatever they have specifically on their plate, what usually works for them, what works, as I like to say, for 90 to 95% of people, is giving them a partial result or no result, and they're in pain. Okay, so that's the set of people that tend to see me. Now, with that being said, when I'm talking to people, when I used to go to physical holistic fairs, people would come and have like, I'm not sure this is legit or real. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, and I would tell them exactly what you said. If you're skeptical, this may or may not work, but you're willing to leave the door cracked that much, I can work with that. Now, if you're going to put 10,000 pounds of cement on that crack and sit on it, and you're just 100% positive it's not going to work for you, you're right. Save your time and money. I will not be able to help you.
So how does this play out in their physical health then? So they come to you, they're in either pain or emotional health. And I know the AMA, and I think this is conservative, but the AMA says 80% of all health problems are related to stress. I've seen it as high as 90-95%, but the majority is that stress, that's emotion, that's our environment. How does this play out in the physical realm or the emotional realm of what you're seeing?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. First, with that point about stress, stress is kind of like the gateway that kind of breaks down your immune system, the strength of your energy field. And when we're out of balance in lower vibrations, our vibration state is not as high in our body, we become more susceptible to dis-ease, imbalances in the energy field, which becomes the gateway for things, starts out on the energetic blueprint, and then can make it ways to the physical body. So yeah, as far as the emotions, Dr. Nelson, the creator of the emotion code that I'll be talking about in a minute, says that at least in emotions are at least a role, negative trapped emotions in 85% of people's stuff, whatever it is. So it's very, very big. So that's one of the biggest plays. Like one of the biggest emotions a lot of people are experiencing right now is fear. As we know, there's a lot of uncertainty, concerns about this or that. And fear immediately hits your immune system. You want to lower your immune system? Be in fear, okay? It takes away your ability to think clearly. So it really has a major effect throughout your whole body.
I've seen those charts too on vibration and energy fields that we're in the state of fear, we're in a state of panic, we're in a state of negativity, anger. Those are low energy. We're in a state of bliss. We're in a state of happiness. Something great happens and our emotions change. And we know it. When we even think of something that's really cool, our emotion, our physical body can change. We can get goosebumps. Let me explain something on my end that I've experienced this, and then we can tie this into what you're doing with your clients and emotions. Because I think this is there may be, I know there is an underlying problem with health issues, and if they're trapped in emotions physically, if I do this with chiropractic or somebody's doing it with exercise or with diet or herbs or supplements, if there's an emotional component trapped, it's not going to be successful. They're going to change. They're going to be successful. When I was in 6th grade, I started school when I was 4 years old. So I was always a year to a year and a half behind everyone physically. So I was the little guy, and I'm still the little guy. Yeah. And when I got to 6th grade, I just really couldn't keep up with the schoolwork. I was in high reading and high math because all my friends were. But there was one day we had an open pod so you could see all the classrooms in an area. They walked in, the teacher said, I need Aaron. We're going to take him from high reading and to middle reading, right in front of everyone. And I didn't know this, Mark, until years later. And I was at a chiropractic conference, and we were going through this like emotional type baggage thing. I forget what it was, but this came out of me where I remember going back when I was pulled from high reading to middle reading, embarrassed horribly. I felt like I was number 1 and I went to number 2. And people will say, well, not a big deal, but I didn't know it at the time. And I didn't even know it for probably 30 some years until I had this emotional experience. I started bawling. I started shaking and crying. And I'm like, what the heck is happening to me? I couldn't even finish a sentence in front of my peers, my chiropractors. Yeah. And I'm like, this has been trapped in me. And then I started going through a process that I just started thinking, I always felt good at number 2. I could be the second person on the team. I could be the second best football player in the league, but I wouldn't expect to be the first. I didn't felt worthy of that. That I think some of that I've come through that, maybe not 100%, but I've come through that a lot. Is this what you're talking about? And is this a real thing? Because I felt it in myself.
Yeah, that's an excellent example how negative trapped emotions, probably like a little bit of humiliation and shame from years ago, can still be kind of like either vibrating in people's field and running in the background and impacting their health and well-being, or showing up in subtle ways sometimes. Yeah, and that's because with the negative trapped emotions, things can get trapped in the body, recently, 2 days ago, 20 years ago, or in your case, from elementary school, and they're running in the background and they impact people. Let me just share a story of Dr. Alex Lloyd, he wrote a book called The Healing Codes. I think it's been out for about 10 years or so. But he tells this classic story of this like high-powered woman lawyer that, you know, has it all. She has all the education, everything, okay? And she can't always go to the next level, kind of that promotion, okay? She has everything on paper. He did, a process called the healing codes, which is connected to emotional stuff and more. But what he discovered was that it went back to a memory when she was like 5. Her mom said she couldn't have a popsicle, and she took that she was unlovable and had been carrying that around her life for 30 plus years. He released that, she got those promotions. So, these quote unquote insignificant things that happen in our childhood often can have very big consequences. Let me just add, I see a lot sometimes. I work with some very successful business people. Yeah, again, they're successful in many ways, but they feel held back in one area. What I find sometimes is, I've seen it. It sometimes went back to a memory like from second grade. This is related to the emotions, but it can also be like a curse. A curse isn't necessarily like the witches sitting around the brew, but like if a teacher says something negative to a child, like you'll never amount to anything, or you're always causing trouble, okay? That can be like a curse on the child. We remove that, and this client moved forward in that area where she was stuck. So,
when I hear that, it's all of us. Everyone listening on the line is saying, we've all had bad things happen to us. Do these things affect us differently? Because we've seen people in horrible trapped positions where they may have one parent, maybe they don't, maybe they're being beat as a child, and they come out beautifully and they don't have any problems. And I think what happens is when I hear that stuff, I'm always reading success stories. When I hear that, I think it's just me. Just let it go. Just go over it. Just barrel through it. Push through it. You're strong enough. Just fight it and get rid of it. Don't let it affect you.
Can I add one more thing? One more layer? So yes. So it's important to always look at, our stuff and clear our own stuff. And what I sometimes see, and actually quite often, if people are like really stuck in these patterns, like financial patterns of, maybe they make it to a certain point and then things just freeze for no good reason. And, they've done the study of how to manage their finances and all that, the left brain stuff. What I find is these individuals are often carrying ancestral burdens, okay? Can be emotional, or if their ancestors went through really hard times, they're carrying the energy energetically for the ancestors. They got that at birth. That can be identified and released. I'd like to say sometimes it happens quickly. Sometimes it takes a period of time.
Would that be carried over like genetics?
It's more in the area of epigenetics, in the energy field. So per se, like, we'll often hear people say, if it's a quote unquote physical disease like cancer, like, cancer seems to run in my family. Okay, per se, it's really in the epigenetics. Epigenetics is the study of the expression, how gene expression gets turned on and off. A lot of us have a lot of things running in our field that aren't expressed, but there's enough trauma, stress, they get turned on, okay? And there can be like curses in families why they have, something like quote unquote cancer or whatever it is. That can be identified and released, yes.
I heard a great analogy of epigenetics where we have these traits in our genes that we may carry over. My dad died of heart disease when he was 50. Yeah. So you can say, well, I carry on that gene expression to some degree, but the only way it's going to come out is if I allow it to. My lifestyle and my habits allow it to express itself. And it was explained as if it's in a cocoon. If you put a cocoon or a sleeping bag and zip it all the way up and lock it in, that won't be expressed. The heart disease won't be expressed in my life unless my habits my bad eating habits, bad lifestyle habits, stress, then all of a sudden now that is open, I develop heart disease where I wouldn't develop maybe some type of cancer. So I love the epigenetic stuff. It's a great field of study, and our bodies can be restored. We can kind of transform even our genetic traits by our lifestyle and our habits. And when we do that, I tell my kids, I say, you can be I have 5 kids. I tell them, you can be healthier than I ever was and I ever could be, because you're starting life cleaner and better, and you can build on that. So can you dive in a little bit more with like the emotions and the health? Because I think people are sitting there probably saying, this is me. I have this type of maybe background. I don't know. Should I see a practitioner? What can I do? Do I know that I have a problem? How would they even know that they're in this state of dysfunction?
Yeah, so I think it can be, let's use a common one that I see a lot. People talk about anxiety, okay? Experience anxiety, they're fine. I saw that a lot when I was teaching. It's test time, and certain students would just, quote unquote, experience it. It was real, okay? So how does that get triggered? And they know they have a pattern. Okay, so let's just use that as one concrete example. Okay, anxiety in test-taking situations. That's the entry point into the energetic field. The way that it works with the emotion code and identifying the root cause. You have their permission, you get help from above, God source creator, and you ask the body for this individual reason for this anxiety in test-taking situations. So the emotion code, this book, teaches everyone from Dr. Nelson how to identify and release your negative trapped emotions. Okay, he says, this is a chart I'll show. There are over 60 negative trapped emotions, okay? So the way it works is I tune into their field, ask the body reason for this anxiety stuff. Let's say it was a failure. Okay, it's taking me to the trapped emotion of negative trapped emotion of failure. Age 10. Anything come to mind? Oh yeah, I remember I failed a test, my math test in 10th, when I was 10. Yeah, I'll check. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, do we know more? No, let's just release it. 1, 2, 3, gone. Okay, next reason for this anxiety. Let's say it was grief. Takes me to the trapped emotion, negative trapped emotion of grief. Age 15. Anything come to mind? Yeah. My father died when I was 15. Is that it? Yep. Okay, so you've been carrying that grief. Let's say the person's now 30. Okay, let's release that. So I keep on going until it's either completely done with the issue or done for now. So I say, okay, we're done with it. Okay, imagine you're taking the test. Does it feel the same or different? I say, oh, I feel calmer. I feel lighter. Yeah, I can do this. Okay, everyone will change at his or her own rate. Some will experience the changes immediately. Others will experience over time.
And some listeners are going to say, this sounds crazy. Let me say something. I had a bike accident 5 years ago, and I broke my scapula. I had a really bad concussion, but the concussion was never even looked at. Well, yep. About a year and a half later, I started going through these bouts of like depression and anxiety, and I felt miserable. I would tell my wife, "Hon, I don't even know why I'm on this planet." She's looking at me going, "You're super successful in business. You run a big clinic. You still play rugby. You're active. You're healthy. What are you talking?" And she just brushed it off. I'm like, "You don't understand. Right. I didn't know what it was, and I never had this in my life." Well, anyhow, long story short, I dealt with this for a while. I talked to a chiropractor, and she does some emotional testing, and we went through some cranial work, some different chiropractic. I had to take a different approach. And she said, "Do you mind if I do some emotional work with you?" And I'm not sure what technique she had, but she was muscle testing me, and I know you do that. So I said, "Sure, I'm open." So she's going through these testing, and she hit age 10. So people listening, if they know me, they know I'm a very conservative, rational guy. So if you're thinking, this sounds odd, so I'm very rational, and I'm skeptical, but very open. I want to heal. I want to be my best. She said, "What happened at age 10? She goes, "You are blowing out. You're so weak." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Age 10. She goes, she tried 12, 13, 8, 9, she's 10. And I thought, oh gosh, that was 6th grade. That was English. She had no idea. And I'm like, "You're kidding me." And she goes, "Wow, this is strong." So she gave me some techniques. So it is real. Energy. I didn't know how she did. I'm like, this is like trickery. What are you doing to me? But I knew it was real stuff because it was my physical body. So
Yeah, let me get on the question about it being real, because like I said, people can be skeptical. A couple weeks ago, I attended it was an online business networking event. I was the invited guest speaker. I had 10 minutes to talk about my business. Okay. What I did in the last 5 minutes was do a demo. I said, anyone online have any type of physical pain they've had for, multiple years? They just didn't get hit by a Mack truck yesterday, and, for no good reason. Yeah. So Joe the plumber raises his hand. Joe the plumber is not an energy person. He goes, yeah, I was playing basketball like 4 years ago, kind of just boxing someone out. And since then, my shoulder's not been right, and I really don't know why. There's no good reason. So I worked with Joe the plumber for 5 minutes. Okay. He went from an 8 to a 2 in his pain, and he had more range of motion. And one of the things that turned up, I remember there were multiple things, but this is quick, was he had a heartache at age 9. He didn't remember exactly what it was, and we didn't need to know about it at the time. I could just clear it, but he could move it. And then a couple days later, he went to a 0, and it's been that way. So that's what's possible. So my main point is, it's about results. You know if you're better or not, and you decide always, okay? The people that come to see me have been through the things that genuinely work for most people. And again, my clients always decide if they're better or not and go from there.
And, the reason we're doing this show is to give listeners a new option. I mean, we are medicated heavily in the U.S. It's the 3rd leading cause of death in America. Wow. It's what we treat everything. I've seen it destroy my family many times, and medicine is one way to go about it. And what's crazy, Mark, is I'll say, what are the side effects of the 12 medications you're on? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, so you're willing to put in 12 chemicals, and if I were to take those chemicals today, I may be dead at the end of the night, or if my child got a hold of them, he'd be dead. And you would look at him and say, well, of course he'd be dead. They're strong. Sure. They're strong pharmaceuticals. He can't take them, but I can. I said, so they're making you healthier. We've got to start looking and saying, enough is enough. We need other options. We need other ways to treat things. And if you're out there, the energy stuff, it's real. It's just, you've never heard it this way. You've never had a practitioner walk you through this, or even open your mind or get a book and start reading. We need to stop the crap we're doing to our bodies and start making a change. Let me ask you this. You treat people, pets, and spaces. And we said that in the beginning. People were spaces. When I first read it, I'm like, what's he mean by spaces? I want you to elaborate on this, because I think it's quite interesting what we talked about before. What do you mean by spaces? You treat spaces.
Yeah. So I work energetically with spaces. So it may be, private residences. It may be public buildings, hospitals, schools, jails, courthouses. Maybe it's a real estate agent that has a property that, they know everything that needs to go into a property to sell and all that. And maybe they have a deal that's fallen through 6 times in a row for no good reason. So what I do is I have intuitive abilities and training to read the energy of a space, seeing where things are disharmony and flow, and release those patterns. So that maybe that real estate agent that had that deal that fell through 6 times in a row, within 3 days, it sells. It can also be like private spaces. We've probably all been in spaces where homes, maybe if people are been looking for a home, they see like on the outside exterior, a beautiful home, and they walk in, they go, oh, this place just feels creepy. I want to get out of here. Okay. So spaces can get wonky energies for a variety of reasons. Some of it can be because people can be like emotional pig pens, like from Snoopy. They leave energetic signatures. We all do wherever we go, so positive or negative, and it can get trapped. So if it was maybe a house that was put on the market, during a divorce where there's a lot of fighting, a lot of disharmony, that can get imprinted in the house. Okay. Maybe if it was land that was illegally acquired 400 years ago, okay, where the original occupants were dispossessed of their land, they sometimes cursed it, okay, said no one will prosper on this land, there will always be problems. Or also there can be energies within the earth, like geopathic stress. Actually, that is a leading cause of people's health and well-being issues. So there's just underlying natural things occurring in the earth that are not beneficial for humans that can be energetically shifted. So what I do is I frequently, if people ask me to look at a space, one of the first things I'll do is look at what's called the light score. So I can see energetically like how much light and truth is in the house, from 0, nothing, to 100. Often if it has wonky energy, it's often like 10, okay, of 100. So I know how to release things, identify and release the energies that are keeping it stuck. And then I'll ask the client, how does the house feel? They'll feel a difference often in short order.
It's fun. When we talked in the beginning, I said, when I go into hospitals, I feel like there's an attack. I feel horrible. I don't like being in there. I feel like demons are in there. And, one thing in the Bible, it says we are not fighting the physical, we're fighting the spiritual. Everything is spiritual. And let me ask you this, do people have different intuition, more intuitive feelings than others? And more like, we always call it innate ability, or innate feeling, especially I believe we're connected to God. God, the Spirit's going to talk to us and say, hey, he's going to guide us. I get guided by the Holy Spirit. I don't want my physical mind to lead me. God is better at doing that. Are we at different levels of that we can understand it? Because again, they may be saying, how would you even know that? And probably most of the people will say, I've had that feeling. I don't know what it is and why.
Yeah. So let's talk about the whole topic of intuition. It's one of my favorite. So intuition, we all come into this lifetime with highly intuitive. At least here in the US, most of us as kids are taught to shut it down, because intuition is knowing things without knowing how we know it. We just know. Okay. And there are different ways we get those messages. Here in the US, definitely, you'll hear stories of kids that just blurt out. I've heard stories. They just know it, that Aunt Sally's sick. I said, she has stomach problems. How do you know? Yeah. Because they're just that in tune. So for the most part, we're taught to shut that down because, especially here in the West, we're taught to, and hey, time and place for everything, for our left brain, our logic, our intellect, which is important. And it ain't the whole story. And also the other thing that happens is our pineal gland in our brain, like our third eye, those that know intuition is our side of our intuition. Often that pineal gland, that third eye, becomes calcified very quickly with all the chemicals and stuff. So we're not able to receive messages as easily as we're meant to from God. So different people have different awarenesses. Connection to intuition is like everything. Intuition, we're all given innate abilities, and it's like any skill. If we don't use it, we lose it. It becomes flabby. So I'm going to be teaching a class on intuition pretty soon online.
I love it. And it reminds me of, I read a book by Dr. I think Cho. I don't know if he's a doctor. He's a pastor in Korea or somewhere, one of the largest churches, but it was fourth dimension. And he was talking about there's this, the three dimensionals, what we can physically see and touch and do, but the fourth dimension can connect almost like a GPS, connect me to you, where we hear like twins. One twin gets an upset stomach and is shaking crazy, and they call, and their other twin that lives across the country just got hurt. It's like, how did that happen? There's a connection. Where is this? And he was talking about this fourth dimension. And when I get up in the morning and I pray and I read the Bible, I want to be connected to God. I want God to lead. I want the Spirit to lead me. I'll do the best I can with my mind, but I want to be led through this. Is that what we're talking about, like the fourth dimension, where we have this interconnection?
Yeah, I think there are different types of intuition. One would be kind of like a, survival intuition coming from our gut. We just know something isn't quite off. And then the highest one is our connection to God, source, creator. That's where I get my information. That's where I get my messages from my light team. That's the one that the purpose of God, source, creator, communicating with us through our intuition is for our best and highest good, to kind of guide us for the next steps in our life. Okay, so we often get those flashes of to do something, or pick up the phone, or sometimes we see a flyer, or we just know not to go down that street. Okay, that's kind of we all have guardian angels and God, source, creator that are looking out for us. They're always pinging us if we'll pick up the phone. Okay, I think that's something important, especially with messages from the angels. The angels will never intervene unless you call them. Okay, they're there and they're always willing to help you. They're different angels that do different tasks, but if you just call on, angels help me, they'll come. Okay, now, but they'll never interfere, because we all have free will as human beings to make choices.
Right, and I agree. It's one of the things, even with God. God says, here I stand at the door and knock. It's like we gotta open the door. We gotta ask. Yeah. We gotta pray, and ye shall receive. Not just wait, but there's a belief. I mean, this we could probably talk for hours on this stuff. But let's as we start moving into like a direction that there's a lot of people are listening and saying, okay, where do I start? Maybe they don't know of a practitioner. Maybe they're not ready for it. Yeah. Maybe they are. What direction, if they're sitting there saying, I'm intrigued, where should I go from here?
Okay. One thing, if they're intrigued with energy, well, let's make one thing they can do is I host a show called the People and Pet Show every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Often I'll interview people in the holistic space that work with people, animals, and spaces, where they share their journey, and they frequently do free mini readings. Okay. So, and then often I have special editions of my show. I do live mini healings on my show quite often, or on Facebook. So that's one way. If they just want to get feet wet, sample. Also, so if they think like, I might be able to, I'm kind of interested in that emotion code, they can buy a book, order the emotion code through Amazon. Again, if they want to learn on their own, that's something they can do. Another popular thing your audience is probably familiar with is tapping, emotional freedom technique by Nick Ortner. He popularized it, but it's been around for a while. So it's a way, it's a technique of self-help where you can tap on different points. There's a certain protocols where you can release emotions. Okay, these are all things people can learn on their own. Okay, if they want to invest a little bit of time and energy, and now with YouTube, Facebook, lots of times people can get that extra level of support online for free. Okay, so that's where people want to start. One other, if people are open-minded, I would recommend My Liquid Fish by Jimmy Mack. Jimmy Mack did healings. He studied all sorts of healing modalities for 20 years. And then one fateful day about 10 years ago, he had some problems with his gallbladder, wound up in the hospital, had surgery, and he coded out 3 nights in a row. Okay. It was like, went and came back 3 times, and he got downloaded with a simple and very powerful healing technique to get rid of a lot of people's stuff. So it's My Liquid Fish by Jimmy Mack. You can find it. Again, he has a lot of free stuff online if people want to just go. He also has a healing show he's off and on where you can call in and he'll work with you. So those are some places you can start.
And that's great. And we'll have all in our show notes, we're going to have all your contact information. So if you're listening, you're saying, where do I find Mark? You'll be able to, if you're driving, I say this all the time, don't try to do this now. Just wait. Don't be stressed out. All you have to do is click and you'll go right to his website. You'll get his information on his show. But I'll also include the books as well. That's one thing. I listen to podcasts, and I'll be listening in my car, out on a run, doing stuff, and I hear a book. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. I go to their show notes and it's not there. I'm like, so I have to go back and re-listen and try to find it. It takes me like 20, 30 minutes. What was interesting? Can I
add one more resource that is really good, just like for starters? I highly recommend Donna Eden. She has a excuse me, a 10-minute energy workout. She teaches people how to get their energies back into balance in 10 minutes, things they can do for themselves. And right now I offer it as a free gift when people sign up for my e-newsletter, and people I know can find it on YouTube. Donna Eden, the 10-minute energy workout. She was one of the pioneers in energy medicine doing these workshops in the late 70s when, she was really quote unquote out there for most people. But excellent work. So Donna, I highly recommend Donna Eden stuff.
It's funny. People look at me and they think I'm crazy too. And I think I'm like a well-grounded, basic guy, but they think, some of the things I do are nuts. It's like, we've got to push our limit. We've got to stop thinking like everyone else thinks. If you want to be like everyone else, just keep doing it. If you want to be extraordinary, super. I'm 54, Mark, and I always say this on my show. They're probably sick of this, but I still play competitive rugby with 20 and 30-year-olds. And I looked up, like, who's the oldest guy that's ever played competitive rugby. He's like 96. He's from Wales. So I'm like, I want to keep doing this. I want to live to 120 without diapers. But to do that, I can't just be like everyone else. I noticed too, when you held the emotional code up, the book, The Emotional Code, it was forwarded by Tony Robbins. So if you're listening and you're saying, you know what, are these books legit? Tony Robbins, if you don't know Tony Robbins, well, you're in the ice age, you're under a rock. But Tony Robbins wouldn't forward something that he doesn't believe in. And he's a well-grounded, amazing what he's done.
Yeah. So the edition I showed you is from 2019. It's been out, the second edition for a year. The original came out in 2007. So yeah, cool. Tony Robbins was impressed. Tony Robbins in the last couple of years had some health stuff. And I know part of his improvement has been from the emotion code and more.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I was telling a patient this morning is when, like Tony Robbins, he sees a chiropractor, he does emotional work, he eats organic food, he takes water, he jumps into an ice tube in his house, he jumps into an ice bath, and we didn't even talk about that. That's pretty interesting, but ice bath. He does saunas. He's doing things extraordinary to stay healthy. And we look at these things, we say, oh, how crazy they are. Well, who is doing it? It's the people who have money and have been through battles that aren't served conventionally. And they say, well, we've got to go out and above. And lo and behold, not only do they find an answer, but it skyrockets their health. So why wait, people? Why wait for disease to hit you and you're in a crisis? Act now. We can start adding these elements in. Maybe it's just a 10-minute energy workout. Maybe it's just some EFT tapping. Dr. Mercola's website, he was from Chicago too, but he had a lot on EFT. And back in the day when I was watching this 15 years ago, like, this is crazy. But we have to take these tools, and this is where Mark's expertise and his guidance, and if you want to utilize his services, he may be an element of your healing process. I always tell my patients too, Mark, it's not just me. You've got to go home and do your stuff. I'm going to be an element. I may be a powerful element, but I'm going to do my very best, but we've got to work together. So I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I always tell people, a lot of my clients that see me, they're seeing a naturopathic doctor too. They're doing yoga. So they're organic eating. So yeah, energy work is great. And often you need to support it, like you said, by better nutritional habits, doing a little bit of exercise, all that matters too. So yeah, I'd like to say energy healing's the magic wand for everything. And you need to support, your body physically too.
In a way, if we look at it this way, this is interesting. This just kind of jumped to my mind, is we wouldn't hesitate to go see our family physician, go to a cardiologist, go to, a skin specialist, and a lymphatic specialist, a toe specialist, a podiatrist. We have all these lists of doctors that are going to treat us generally, majority of the time, the same way, with drugs or surgery. Yeah. But we see everyone for different parts. Why don't we start taking this into consideration and think, look, let me see a chiropractor. We need a healthy nerve system. Let me see a fitness guy. I need a healthy body. Let me talk to somebody about energy. Let me talk to somebody about nutrition. That's what this show is about. We're getting different pieces of this, so then we can create our own set of doctors to help us. It's not one and done. You don't see a naturopath and say, that's all, I just need to eat green sprouted food. Bull crap. You better get your butt out there and exercise. Yeah. And there's different elements. So I think I love this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's so important, because, sometimes people, because I talk about too, about maintaining a high vibration, because when we're in a higher vibrational state, we have strong energetic boundaries. We experience more joy, happiness, peace, equanimity. And often people say, well, so if I do this once, will it always stay at 100%? I said, I wish I could say that. It's kind of like I said, we all need to do energetic maintenance, daily energetic hygiene. I said, because, it's like brushing your teeth and flossing, it's probably best you do it every day. Can you maybe not do it one day or two, maybe two, and get away with it? Yeah, maybe you put a little essential oil, peppermint oil, you'll be okay. But after maybe a couple days, you're going to stink.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just do it. It's just something, and it's like everything. It's like, if you maintain it, the maintenance will stay low. If you let things go for 2 years, then when you decide to quote unquote deal with it, the maintenance will be high and you'll be in not so good a shape.
It's I just what you said. I've said that 10 times this morning to my patients, saying, look, you're going to either spend your time and energy, what we're talking about today, energy, into either something productive, and it's going to take time, energy, and money. You can spend your money on fitness equipment, a better diet, organic food,
Yeah.
running shoes, a better stereo system for your workout area, so you feel more empowered to work out. I put my money into all that. The energy that I put in is positive energy. And this is interesting. Maybe we'll wrap it up on this. So I put my energy, my time, money, and energy into everything that's going to build my health. So if I put my energy into building, what am I getting in return? I'm not getting negative energy in return. What you put out comes back. So if you're putting your energy into pharmaceuticals, doctor visits, surgery, misery, no hope, they'll tell people, look, this is the way you got to live for the rest of your life. I'm like, really? You need to fire their butt and find another doctor. So
Right.
if wherever we put our energy, time, and money, aren't we going to get that in return?
Yep, absolutely. No. Yep. I agree. More we put our attention, we get more of.
So as we wrap this up, I think I could talk to you for hours on this. This is quite fun. But as we wrap this up, any kind of parting last minute stuff that you just left out that you have to get our listeners to hear?
Yeah, I would just remind everyone again, thank you for listening. Consider, I just invite everyone to consider this information and all the information presented on this podcast series. I'm just going to invite everyone to keep an open mind. Try something out.
Yeah.
It's about results. You spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Again, you can often, like I said, you come on my show, you get a mini healing for free for 10 minutes. If it's for you, great. You can decide you may want to go deeper. If not, you tried it out. Try something else out. Again, because we're at a time, especially now, where we need to be even more self-empowered to take care of our own health and wellness. And then when we get stuck, seek practitioners like Dr. Tressler, myself, or a naturopath, whoever serves you, because in each time and place, there's a time and place for everything. At different times, we need different approaches. So that's my invitation for people. And just remember, keep your immunity strong. Fear will give it a hit. And also, contrary, laughter will really boost your immune system.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And on the laughter part, I love comedy. I teach a 12-hour continuing education course to chiropractors. I just did it this past weekend. And 12 hours that I have to teach. And most of the time, they don't want to be there because we just have to get these hours in. Well, I have to be there. So I'm going to make it fun for me. So I'll put these video clips of comedy, from Dumb and Dumber and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and the Peter Sellers, Pink Panther.
Oh, yeah.
My kids look at this and they're like, Dad, why are you putting these goofy clips of this? Aren't you teaching doctors? And I said, I am. I said, but if they don't have fun and laugh, they're going to be in a state of misery. So we're going to have fun. They cracked up. When they crack up, they're more open to learn. So I love it.
Yeah.
So any fun, crazy plans for the near future, Mark?
Fun, crazy plans. Let me think. Yeah, in the near future, I'm at some point before everything happened with the COVID, I was going to do a people and pets traveling healing show in the U.S. and COVID hit, but I'm going to still explore another way to do that online.
Cool.
Because I think there are a lot of people, that are experiencing a lot of stuff right now. And I think it's great. I love getting out in the community as much as possible right now with everything going on, and showing people what's possible. I think giving them hope and showing them, there's always hope. There's always new possibilities. So I guess that's what's on my radar.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show, and everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. And please share these with your friends and family. Share them on Facebook pages. Share them on, if you have an email account, with your listeners. This information can transform somebody's life. And the only way it's going to is if you help and you share it. It helps us. I don't make money from this show. I lose money because it takes a lot of time and effort into it, but I do it because I want to see the community change. I want to see lives change, and go on to do a review. So please help us out by doing that. It thrills me to know that people are listening, and I get messages back that, hey, this helped me. And that's what we want to do, make not only Pittsburgh better, but this world a better place. So Mark, thank you for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. I love you. I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure. Thank you.